When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Unlock over $3,500 in business and travel value annually with statement credits on select purchases from brands like Dell, Hilton, and Adobe, and other benefits. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Based on total potential value of statement credits on select purchases and other benefits, enrollments required, monthly and other limits and terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and a two-time Super Bowl champion wants to join the 49ers, but should they get a deal done? The Seattle Seahawks gave the Niner fans some intel over the week that indicates San Francisco may finally be trying to limit Christian McCaffrey's workload in 2026, and just how much money did the 49ers save by renegotiating Trent Williams' contract, and what could they do with that money in the upcoming season? That's what we're getting into today on the show, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave us that 5-star audio podcast review, and let's dive into today's episode of 49ers Access, starting off with a doozy, because we got some intel, some news after the draft from the Seattle Seahawks beat writer for ESPN, Brady Henderson. And it may dictate, or at least may detail, how San Francisco views and wants to utilize Christian McCaffrey going forward. I'm going to share the screen here for us on YouTube if you want to see that. Hopefully I can bring it up for us rather quickly here, because I think it's interesting. I think San Francisco may have found themselves not leaking information by any means, but I think it may give us an indication as to what they want to do in 2026. So this comes via Eric Branch of the San Francisco Chronicle, where he takes a look at what ESPN's Brady Henderson reported from the Seahawks side of things coming out of the NFL draft. And according to Henderson, the fear in Seattle was that the Niners were, quote unquote, potentially going to take a running back at pick 27 or 30. And the exact quote here is, Brady Henderson reports the Seahawks had, quote unquote, concern that the Niners might grab Jadarian Price at 33 had Seattle not taken him at 32. So we can debate on to whether the San Francisco 49ers wanted a receiver, Casey Concepcion, a safety, Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, who went to the Bears in this year's draft ahead of them at pick 27. They then trade back to 30. They said, Omar Cooper Jr. isn't our guy. Trade back again. And we can say, well, why wasn't it this guy? Okay, they want Denzel Boston and Cassius Howe. They eventually take Dejon Stribling at Ole Miss. But the Seahawks, who have a ton of Niner former coaches and players in the building that know San Francisco maybe better than anybody besides the Rams do, because the McVay tree, they thought the Niners wanted a running back at pick 33. Could you imagine the Niners drafting a running back at pick 33 overall? I think the world may burn down if that was the case. I think Niner fans would look at it and say, what are you doing? You got CMC. We're taking running backs now? And I would push back and say, well, Christian McCaffrey touched the football 450 times last year. He's near 30 years old. You kind of got to find, not a replacement, but you have to find somebody else, which also may show you and tell us why they did reach, in a sense, over the consensus for Kaelon Black. They thought, oh crap, Jeremiah Love is a clear-cut number one, not going to make it out of the top 5, not even on our draft board because of that. Their top 2 running backs were Jadarian Price, most likely because he'd be there at pick 33, they thought, at least for 27 and 30, and Kaelon Black. And you can disagree with that all you want. That's fine. I don't even think I do. But the fact is, based on the Seahawks side of things, the Niners walked into this year's draft with running back as a priority. Whether it be because they don't like Grendo, maybe they have some hesitations on how much Jordan James can help them this upcoming season, or, and likely, that Christian McCaffrey was almost the entire offense last year, is nearing or around the age of 30 come this NFL season, and is probably going to show more signs of slowing down as his contract continues. But further into the article, Eric Branch mentions that Brian Fleury, who was the Niners' former run game coordinator and tight ends coach, who's now at the Seattle Seahawks as their offensive coordinator, that he kind of discussed, that Christian McCaffrey is nearly 30 years old. He's almost 30. He's had 7 seasons in the NFL. And that while we can, again, discuss tight end and safety and receiver and edge rusher, the Niners filled many of their needs in the draft and free agency, that the Seahawks said, if we don't get Jadarian Price at 32, he's going to San Francisco at 33. So this kind of comes twofold into the discussion of draft reaches and needs, where like Seattle lost Kenneth Walker, probably should have paid him, but chose not to for a lot of reasons. Money, I'm sure, a big one. But now they're banking on Emmanuel Wilson and Jack Charbonnet post-ACL injury and Jadarian Price to become their next, three-headed, two-headed monster out there in the Pacific Northwest, whereas San Francisco may have been hoping that, if Price falls to day 2, we can get him at 33. That can be our RB2, which, how would you have felt if San Francisco, who, like, a lot of the big argument against the Kaelon Black pick isn't really against the player himself. It's against the position, the draft value, the pick value compared to the need of running back when you have James and you have Grendo, 2 4th and 5th round draft picks the last 2 seasons. Imagine if they took a running back at 33. We all would have said, he's not going to play. That would be the highest they have taken a running back ever in the Shanahan regime. And maybe, like the arguments against Black, we all would have said, you could have got 3 UDFAs to fill that role. Why are you taking a second-round running back? Why are you wasting that when you have other needs on the board? Now, that could maybe be BPA versus a need debate. But it goes to show you that the Niners may be looking to limit Christian McCaffrey's workload, which is a great thing for them. A great thing for Christian McCaffrey. We know how important CMC is to the offense. We know how integral he is to helping things underneath and pass protection, making the offense more explosive as a whole. And last year, especially off 2 Achilles injuries and a knee injury, CMC carried the biggest workload in the entire NFL. You cannot ask a near 30-year-old running back to do that again. Now, CMC takes care of his body better than anybody else does in the entire league. Like, he is TB12 to the nth degree. Like, this dude is out there with Pilates and yoga and whatever Russian symbiotic thing he put in his body to help his Achilles, venom, carnage, whatever it is. The dude is superhuman. He's a machine. But eventually, body parts break, you wear down. It's just human nature. It is father time. To me, this indicates San Francisco, while not trying to phase out Christian McCaffrey, because why would you? They do realize that eventually, whether it's this year or next year, and based on drafting Black at pick 90, think they realize it's sooner than later. CMC is not going to be this, ultra all-pro, Pro Bowl, lean on him every single snap type of player. They realize that soon it's not going to be a Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey-led offense. It'll be a Brock Purdy and then plug in the next running back into the system. Now, you don't just replace Christian McCaffrey with other guys you draft. It's very rare. CMC is one of one. Outside of Jahmyr Gibbs and guys like that, it's like no one's really doing what CMC does. And you can make the case he's a top 5 running back in football and maybe a top 5 receiver in football still. But to me, if Seattle believes that, and maybe they're wrong, like they could in fact be wrong here. But what if when Shanahan talked about guys that we thought would be there on the board at 27 and 30 and 33 weren't there? Maybe it wasn't just Malachi Lawrence and KC Concepcion and Dylan Thieneman. Maybe it was, in fact, Jadarian Price. Maybe the argument against Kaelon Black, they're never going to play him. He'll be buried behind Christian McCaffrey in the depth chart. Why would you waste a pick in the 3rd round at a running back who's never going to see snaps? Maybe that's not the case. Because my argument against Kaelon Black was that unless there is some semblance of strategic and schematic and mental change of Bobby Turner being like, look, we have to have a heavier rotation, mix guys in, get these fresh legs on the football field, even if it means CMC is, instead of a 25-touch player, he's a 17-touch player a game. He's a 15-touch player a game. Let's maximize the times he has the ball in his hands compared to just ramming him down the throat of a defense over and over again, and let's utilize James and Kaelon Black. Maybe there is that shift happening behind the scenes. Now, we know Kyle Shanahan and Bobby Turner. We can say that, and we can watch the NFL games and go, why even waste the time? Because they're never going to change. But maybe it is an indicator that with the Seattle Seahawks believing the Niners may have taken Jadarian Price at 33, we are starting to see some initial maybe gears turning that the Niners may be wanting to go to more of a RB1, RB2 rotation, or an RB1, RB2, RB3 rotation, and get guys more involved to preserve the hopeful elite stretch that remains of Christian McCaffrey, because I don't think the Seahawks are tossing out, we overdrafted a running back, or we drafted a running back because the Niners were behind us and they were going to take him. You don't just toss it out there. Most teams don't say the team right behind us was going to take him, so we took him anyways, unless you truly believe that. Like San Francisco is defending the Stribling pick by saying, we tried to trade back, but we knew somebody in the 40s was going to take it, and we couldn't trade back that far, so we took him anyways. That's the same defense the Seahawks are giving now of like, if we didn't take him here at 32, somebody behind us, in this case, Niners at 33, we're going to take him anyways. So I think it's interesting what other teams think of the 49ers, because we have talked long and hard about you have to salvage Christian McCaffrey. He's so important to your offense. He's so important to what you want to do offensively that if you lose him, you are royally screwed. Now, Brock Purdy's a great quarterback, and you brought in Mike Evans, and if Pearsall can stay healthy and Kittle comes back and he's healthy, maybe you can afford to lose him for a game or two. But they may be looking at this more of like, we need to make sure we don't lose him for a game or two. We know he'll do his best in the offseason, get his body right, but once the NFL season comes, guys get twisted and turned, and being healthy for a full 18-week plus playoff schedule is super hard. And seems he did that last year. The odds it happens again are very slim for a near 30-year-old running back off 450 touches. So I at least think it's pretty interesting that the Seattle Seahawks were like, they were going running back and we had to get our guy. And if we didn't, we could be talking about not Dejon Stribling at 33. We could be saying Jadarian Price, Niners 33rd overall draft pick this year. What do you think about that? Do you like the thought of San Francisco taking a running back at 33? What do you think it tells you about Christian McCaffrey and his longevity in the league and how they view his longevity on the team? I think it at least shows us on paper, which may change come game day, that they are at least realizing the reality that Christian McCaffrey may not be built to last more than 1-2 more years. We know running backs after 30, it's a steep decline. And CMC is built to beat that for sure, but we know Father Time, he had 2 bilateral Achilles injuries, tendonitis 2 years ago now. He had he had a knee injury. It's like those things, once you get cut open, once you have to go to Russia to figure things out and get healthy again, usually you don't get healthier. We saw last year, although there were signs of CMC having the explosiveness still, there were signs of him being the all-pro player he's been for the last, 4 seasons. There was, a slower version of CMC on the football field. And I think San Francisco said, look, if we're not going to maximize center, we have questions of our left guard stuff, albeit I do like Robert Jones and Carter Willis, what they did there this offseason. If we have to play Seattle and things don't work out in our favor and the Rams, who have a very powerful front seven, we may have to, be 2 yards a carry again. Well, a lot of that is the offensive line's fault, but some of that could be CMC is not as quick to hit a hole as he once was. Well, how do you change that? You could fix the offensive line. That's probably most people's solution to that problem. Or do you get a 22-year-old, 23-year-old back that has no tread on his tires, is explosive, and has a high ceiling still? So we will see when the season comes along how they view Christian McCaffrey, but also I think it may show us how they are going to utilize Kaelon Black and Jordan James this year. You can say they overdrafted a running back at 90. I wouldn't disagree, but you can tell that could be the thought now of, oh crap, we didn't get our guy at 33. We have to get our guy at 90.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so-not-last-minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last-minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
My theory was all the trade backs were to accumulate more picks to give Kyle a chance to get a running back. And while that could just be hearsay and me kind of theorizing incorrectly, when you see they may have wanted Jadarian Price at 33, may also realize, or it may also come to fruition, that they did trade back because Kyle said, I need a 3rd-round draft pick to get my guy before somebody else takes him on day 3. Like Emmett Johnson, I think, went to the Broncos early day 3, round 4. That could have been Kaelon Black. There's been theories out there that teams didn't want Kaelon Black to go to the combine because they viewed him as a steal, and they wanted to hopefully grab him on day 3. And so don't go to the combine, don't test, and we'll draft it instead. Now, again, that's a theory. Maybe it's wrong too. But I would not be shocked to learn that the Niners' reaction to missing, if this is in case valid from the Seahawks' point of view, missing on Jadarian Price because they took him instead of San Francisco at 32 instead of 33, their reaction was taking Kaelon Black at 90. I would not be shocked if that was the case, but drop your thoughts down below on that. What do you make of the report from Seattle saying, we knew San Francisco, the fear was, the concern was the actual word they used. The Niners were going to take Jadarian Price at pick 33, thus we took him at 32. When you hear that, how does it make you feel about Christian McCaffrey's future? And how does it make you feel about the usage you'll see of him, Kaelon Black, and Jordan James in 2026. But moving forward on the show, because that is not the only Niner news we saw. This comes via David Lombardi of The Athletic. He says that the 49ers have $67 million of cap space right now after redoing Trent Williams' deal. But I want to talk more importantly about Trent Williams' contract, because we'll get into how they can spend that money this offseason. If they're going to spend it at all this offseason, who knows? But David Lombardi dropped this nugget about Trent Williams' contract. We have known Trent Williams, and rightfully so on his end, to maximize his value. How many times have you heard, Oh, Trent may hold out again. Oh, Trent wants more money. Trent wants a redone deal. Trent wants X, Y, and Z. Well, why does he want that stuff? He realizes I'm getting older. I'm 37, 38 years old. If I can still make millions on millions and millions and play great football, which he still is doing, and I'm worth that, then give me that. Thus leading to holdouts. They got a deal done this year and avoided the holdout, but he wanted a brand new deal this year. He wanted a brand new deal 2 years ago. Trent is always looking to maximize Trent, as he should, because I would too. But the Niners essentially told him, we're done. Enough with the threat of a holdout, enough of the not coming to OTAs and training camp and the preseason crap. We're done with the Trent doesn't want to show up BS. And this is not, oh, Trent is a bad person. Trent isn't a team player. This is when Trent's happy with his money, he comes to practice. When he's, take last offseason, Trent got a new deal 2 years ago. He walked in last year happy, ready to go, day one OTAs, and he was there the entire process, and it showed. He was really good last year again. He was healthy, besides one game last year again. Now you have, according to Lombardi, that the Niners and Trent Williams agreed to a quote-unquote no holdout bonus, meaning $37 million of Trent Williams' new contract is fully guaranteed. That's his. You can't change it barring a Brandon Ayuk situation, but unlikely, and it's not going to change. However, he can fully secure $11.5 million more as a 2028 roster bonus if he does not hold out or miss any off-season time in 2027. So they're basically saying, look, this is your last deal. Since this is your last deal, we don't want holdouts. We don't want hold-ins. We want you in the building, in meetings, at practice, involved in the workouts, involved in team drills. We want you here, locked in, ready to go. They essentially told Trent, we'll give you your money, but you can't pull this again. Enough with you want more, enough with the holdout stuff. Look, we need 2 years of you locked in, 2026 and 2027. They essentially told Trent, you have 2 years of your 3-year contract now to be locked in with us. And if somehow in 2028, you want a new deal, we can broach that then. But they wanted 2 years of the nonsense out of the way, of the distraction, of the concern, of the worry. Now, Trent can be like, screw it. I can redo my deal, hold out, and make more money next year. But they have put on paper, signed, sealed, delivered that Trent has agreed to now that if you want $11.5 more million in 2028, you don't hold out this year or next year too. And I love that. That is this front office putting their foot down, saying, we'll give you what you've earned and you are deserved, but what we're not going to do is play the game. The game's over with. The will they, won't they, the offseason questions of, will Trent show up? Do the Niners have to draft the tackle in round one? That's done. They don't want the thought. They don't want the trade discussions, the rumors, the inquiries. They don't want none of it. They want Trent locked in, focused, ready to go from day one of this offseason and now next offseason. And now they've given him some incentive to do so. Yeah, in previous years, he had no reason to. Yeah, hold out. Who cares? About me and my money, me and my paycheck of securing my family and my children and my wife and my kids and whatever else, my mom, my dad, who knows? Securing them their future and my future too. San Francisco told Trent, we know that you probably only have, 2 or 3 years left. You want to play till you're 40, going into your age 38 season. If you want to play until 40, you'll be here until you're 39. with no games being played, no nonsense, and no BS. And like the front office put their foot down 2 off seasons ago and cut Floyd and cut Collins and traded Deebo Samuel away, and albeit made some mistakes in paying Brandon Ayuk, but also put their foot down against him and got rid of his guaranteed money. They are once again, I think, doing the right thing. They're playing hardball, but in the best way possible. We hate the process, right? We hate the discussions of, I just hope Trent shows up. We all knew the deal was going to get done, but now they're saying, this ain't just, we'll go year by year. This is no, you are locking in for 2 years. You're guaranteeing us 2 years of no offseason issues with you. If you're healthy and you're coming back, you're good to go. Day one, OTAs, meetings. Day one, training camp, OTAs, practice, meetings, team drills. When the first snap of the practice is called, you're playing left tackle for the next 2 seasons, barring injury, of course, and if he ever wants to play. But now they're incentivizing, if you want to play until you're age 40 or you want to become the NFL's best left tackle of all time, and you want to reach the most Pro Bowls of all time and all pros of all time in your position, there's your incentive. We'll give you $11.5 million more to do so, to be here and be part of the team from Jump Street, which is great. You want your front offices to do things like this. For all the bad stuff they do, the Ayuk deal, giving into other players, the Trey Lance trade, maybe it's draft picks this year you don't love. The Niners, I think, have done a really good job of tightening their books up, constricting how much leeway they give players in negotiations now, and really have kind of, how do I word this? They've almost kind of guarded themselves and protected themselves from some of the big contracts they've given up. Like Bosa's deal had really good insurance to get money back. They got like $9 to $10 million back when he tore his ACL for a third time during last season. Now the Trent stuff, the Ayuk thing with the cutting of the guarantees, like they've done a pretty good job of kind of reeling things back in and kind of keeping things and guarding themselves from being burned by giving away a lot of money in the process, which that's what you want. When you're playing games and you're giving guys a lot of money, you want to treat them well, but also guard your franchise and the future of your team in return. I think San Francisco is doing that with the Trent deal, and of course others the last couple off seasons too. But what do you make of that? What do you make of San Francisco telling Trent, enough with the holdouts? If you want to make nearly $12 million more in 2028 in 3 years, in 3 seasons, you better show up the next 2 years and be here on day one. What do you think of that? Do you like that? Do you like San Francisco finally putting their foot down? I know I do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And now's a great time to remind you to use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. I know a ton of you use that code around draft weekend, and you guys saved a ton of money. I have the numbers to prove that. Good for you out there. If you want to see concerts, the NBA, the NHL playoffs, MLB, you want to pre-order some football tickets, schedule releases relatively soon, the next couple weeks or so, as soon as they can figure out the referee stuff, man, this is a great time to save some money. Gas is going from $5.69 to $5.49 to $7 sometimes in California. If I can save myself $20, I'll be there first in line and ready to go. Whether it's me being able to save money in my own pocketbook to invest it on something else, maybe you want to sports gamble, that's your own prerogative, not mine, or you want to drown yourself in some alcohol safely. Mind you, don't drive, please. But you want to save yourself some money. Use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. You can help the show out, and I can help you out too by giving you a small but also important discount along the way. But let's dive back into the show because we got one more thing we got to hit on. And that is how the Niners are going to spend the $67 million they currently have, which is a league-leading amount of cap space heading into the season. I don't know if they plan to add any more talent. Yeah, there's Joey Bosa. Yes, there are. Maybe they want to target a veteran safety. There's been some thoughts, some inklings of L'Jarius Sneed. I wouldn't love that, but I've heard that amongst the fan base stirring. I don't know if they want to spend that much money because the way I think they view this is we're going to save money now to save money later. Brock Purdy's contract kicks in relatively soon. Fred Warner's new deal, Nick Bosa's new deal, and of course, George Kittle's new deal. And then Trent's new deal eventually, and Christian McCaffrey's new deal. All these things start to escalate over the next couple of seasons. And the way to limit the punch or the weight of all their contracts kicking into higher cap hits is to save money in the process. And if you can say, well, Nick Bosa's making $55 million in cap hits next year, we got 67 stored up in the reserves. We can take on that load if we have to. I think that's more so what they're doing. They usually set some kind of minimal amount they want to carry over into the next year. I'm going to assume it's probably around $40 million, 50 mil, meaning they have like 17 to 20 to play with, barring the contracts they have and the guys they cut and sign. Some of that will go to, training camp signings, guys get hurt. They want to bring in guys. Some of that will go into the draft pick signing their contracts. It'll go into taking Ayuk's dead cap hit, whether it is for 1 year or split in two. However, the Niners are still getting players at this point on May 6th in free agency, post-draft, post the initial kind of wave of free agent signings where Deebo Samuel's still out there, Joey Bosa, Juwan Jennings still unsigned. They're getting players that are almost advertising themselves as viable veteran options to bring into training camp and hopefully sign to a 1-year deal to help guys kind of tie a nice bow on the end of their career. And one of those players that did this, if I can bring this up for us here on the YouTube, is former New England Patriots and Baltimore Ravens and Miami Dolphins edge rusher Kyle Van Noy. He joined the Up and Adams show with the always wonderful Kay Adams. And if I can bring it here, bigger screen for us, he discussed wanting to join the 49ers. And before I play it, it's interesting because the Niners don't really have an amazing crop of edge rushers. And you got Nick Bosa. Yes, you have Kyle Williams off an ACL injury, mind you. Yes, you drafted Romello Height in the third round at pick 70. But it's like, okay, you got a lot of question marks there. There are some things in place there. To the room, they went and signed Cam Sample. They have Samuel Kawanu. They have Keon White. It's a lot of unproven, albeit exciting pieces to have. Maybe some boomer bust players bring in for a year and hope that things work out for them. But there's no promise. However, Kyle Van Noy said, hey, San Francisco, go ahead and sign me up. I want to join your boy, Fred Warner, out there in the Bay. Let's hear what Kyle Van Noy had to say on the Up and Adams show via Kay Adams on the FanDuel Sports Network.
Looking at that season, I like that you mentioned 2023. It was in Baltimore. You had 9 sacks, second highest total of your career, even though you missed 3 games.
Straight off the couch. Straight off the couch, Kay.
Well, that was with Mike freaking McDonald. You should have seen the amount of questions I had to put you to Seattle, and they signed Fowler this morning.
Oh, they did.
They signed Dante Fowler.
They did hit me up, and I kind of told them what I was thinking, and they were like, "We're not there yet." And I knew the DC loved Fowler. He was down in Dallas, so that was an option. It looks like that option's off the table now. So thanks for telling me. I think he's a good player, but I want to throw out a team, that a lot of people may not know.
Kyle, you're so awesome. You're such a generous person. Go for it.
Yeah, who cares at this point? I really like to play with my little brother Fred Warner with the Niners. I think they got something cooking over there. I know they love Joey Bosa, right? Because Nick and all that. I get that. But I would love to play with my little brother. That's my guy, and I think they got something cooking over there.
What have you talked to them?
I'm not going to go into those details, but I would love to play with Federico a little bit.
We're What do you and Federico look?
Always fun to hear a player say they want to play for the 49ers, first off. But more importantly, when you hear somebody of Kyle Van Noy's status, who albeit is an older player, he's 35 years old, I believe, coming into this season, there are questions of, how long can he continue to do this? Being a free agent still at this point in time, mostly the premier guys are signed to one-year deals, but the Niners have been known to find, mainly Tayshaun Gibson being the big one, of like a one-year training camp deal. Somebody gets hurt, you bring a guy in, and he starts for you in a Super Bowl, right? That's happened before. And so when we get into the topic of, they should get Joey Bosa, and how do you round out your edge rushing room when you really don't know what you have in Keion White? He was traded for a 6th-round draft pick for a reason. He's exciting, he's young, but he got shot in the foot during the offseason. He had ankle surgery. Kyle Williams is kind of the edge-setting, run-defending, base-down player. You move inside. He isn't really a stand-up, edge rusher like a Romello Height is, like a Kyle Van Noy is. You like Samuel Kawanu, but, there's a ceiling to how well or how much you expect from Okawanu to be in 2026. Thus, when talking about bringing in somebody else and people wanting Joey Bosa and people wanting the other guys, Jadeveon Clowney's a name being tossed out there, I would love to bring in Kyle Van Noy. One, because the money isn't going to be $16 million, $10 million. He made like 5.5 last year with the Ravens. He's not going to cost you too much money. He's a guy who, has won 2 Super Bowls. He's been to a Pro Bowl. He's proven he's somebody that you can have in the locker room. He's a good guy. He's done the whole off the couch thing, like he mentioned there in the video. Like, he's done this before. He's been here. He's done this. You have Cam Sample in the room, but kind of a last-second addition to sign Cam Sample. We'll see what he can do. But also, he has injury history to his name. So I think signing somebody like Van Noy, who you don't have to keep, could be a 1-year, $5 million deal, give him a little bit of guarantees and say, we have $67 million to spend. What's there to lose? Now, the one big problem with Kyle Van Noy is...
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
He's not gonna be this explosive player. He's not gonna walk onto your team and give you 8 sacks. He had a really rough 2025. He had 20 tackles. He had 12 pressures and 2 sacks. That's not great. That's actually pretty bad. But I do think when you discuss bringing him in behind Bosa and Michael and behind Height, theoretically speaking, maybe behind Okawanu and mixed in with Keion White, you have a guy that is your 5th edge rusher or 6th edge rusher, or at least mixed into that room to kind of give you some more depth. What's the harm? This is a slam dunk. Do it. There is no drawback to getting somebody like Kyle Van Noy on your roster. He has started a lot of games in his career. I think he knows who he is now. He's not going to be Joey Bosa asking for $10, $12 million a year saying, why am I not starting? He knows who he is. He's understanding as to where he's at in his career. And I think, without having another archetype like Height, who you just drafted at 70, and you want to become the next Bryce Huff or a version of Bryce Huff, maybe a bigger, faster, stronger version of Bryce Huff on the roster, you want a 25-year-old Height to jump off the screen immediately and make an impact. Well, having a Van Noy behind him that plays a similar position, a similar way, kind of that stand-up, can drop back in coverage, but also be a speed rusher off the end type of player, albeit now 10 years of age difference in them or between them, like that's somebody that can walk in, teach him. Like you have Bosa who can do a lot, who will help. You have Trent Williams playing tackle that can help do a lot too. But you need Michael to be an instant impact player in year 2. You need Height to be an instant impact player on day 1. You're relying on younger edge rushers to make up a large part of your defensive line, mainly on the edge now. That's not even including Alfred Collins and Grayson Halton and CJ West. So it's like the more veterans you can bring in to help round out your room is kind of the last line of defense in case some guys go down, and to mix in here or there on third downs in case Height ain't cutting it. Why not? Why not? Even last year, while Van Noy wasn't great, if you combine his win rates the last 2 seasons, he's near 10%, and he's 9.8% from a pass rush win rate standpoint. If you look at the last 2 years, that's around 3rd on the Niners. It's like Bosa, shockingly, Yetur Gross-Matos from the edge. Then it's Kyle Van Noy, and right behind him, Sam Okawanu. Why would you not want to plug in a 9.8%, even if it is an 8.2% or 7.8% pass rush win rate to your defense as the 5th, 4th, 6th option? That's a win. I'd much rather do that than overpay for a Joey Bosa that has a lengthy injury history, that is going to walk in and say, I'm starting, Michael, get off to the side. And while Joey may be a little bit more understanding coming into San Francisco, where he isn't the only Bosa and he's a little older now, Van Noy is going to be this, hey, dude, this is your team. I'm here for the vibes. Fred Warner, BYU guy. I'm a BYU Cougar as well. Let's have some vibes. Give me my 3rd championship. He even said, while he was talking to the Seahawks, they wouldn't sign Dante Fowler, and he wouldn't say he was talking to San Francisco, but I think he realizes that, like, the Niners are, based on their offseason so far, looking pretty good. Now, they aren't the Rams. You can make the case they aren't the Seahawks still. They have to prove they can beat those teams in the biggest moments with this current roster. Done it in previous years, but with this current roster, can you do that? Can guys stay healthy? But when you add in Mike Evans, when you bring back Dre Greenlaw, when you sign Christian Kirk, when you add Jack Jones and you add Nate Hobbs, you don't really address safety. And you're bringing in Cam Sample for a year, and you draft Height, and you have a bunch of guys off with injuries on the defensive line. You go and trade for Osa Odigizua. You're indicating we're going for it. Like, this is it. This is a big year for Renardo Green and Ricky Pearsall in that 2024 draft class. We're going for it. This is a make-or-break season for a lot of people. Veterans, draft players a couple years ago, prospects now. This is a big year for San Francisco for a lot of reasons, mainly because they're relying on so many make-or-breaks or kind of, big sink-or-swim type seasons from a lot of their key integral starting pieces. Evans, Greenlaw, I already mentioned all their names. All those guys, from veterans to former top prospects to guys that have been hurt. Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins, Isaac Grendo, a lot of those guys. You are relying on them to be integral part of your winning. I think Kyle Van Noy sees that and says they're going for it. They want to maximize their window. Seattle could very much have a Super Bowl hangover. The Rams got Stafford, who, albeit it's been healthy the last couple of seasons, injuries can get in the way. Puka Nacua is kind of a head case now. Then it's Ty Simpson behind him, who I think is a better prospect than I think folks think he is, but 13th overall, rookie player. If he has to play and gets tossed out there, they can think quickly in Los Angeles. That leaves San Francisco. And even then, San Francisco won 12 games last year, beat the reigning Super Bowl champions on the road in Philadelphia, and although got their butt spanked against the Seahawks in the playoffs, there was a lot of context as to why behind that. And so there is reasons to believe that San Francisco could be on the come up, and I think Kyle Van Noy isn't going to be a game changer for you, but you have your cake and you have some icing on it, but you put some sprinkles on there. Put some cherries, some nuts. Give it some pizzazz, if you will. And Kyle Van Noy can add some nice level of pizzazz, where it's like, oh yeah, okay, I like the base. I like the cornerstone pieces in place if they're healthy, but man, that cherry on top of the cake really set them apart. So I think the Niners are trying to remake their 2021-2019 defense, where they're 6 deep at edge, where they're 5-4 deep, 6 deep at defensive line, where you can look at all those guys and say every single one of those guys can win on any given down. Yeah, you have stars, but we have guys that can win all over the place. Kyle Van Noy is a guy that I think that can win for you, whether it's on third downs, on second downs, late in games, early in games. He's not going to be Nick Bosa. He's not going to be maybe at times Joey Bosa. But as your 5th or 6th option for $5, if not under $5 million for a year, it's a very bankable and easy deal to make, in my opinion. And you got $67 million to spend. I would go after Kyle Van Noy, who wants to be here, won't ask for a lot of money, and can still give you adequate and near starting level contributions as a depth piece at 35 years old off the couch so far on May 6th. Would you do that, though? When you hear Kyle Van Noy say, I want to play with Fred Warner, I want to play the Niners defense, what do you make of that? Drop your thoughts down below. Don't forget to follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram, and use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. What do you make of today's show? Christian McCaffrey, Niners were going for Jadarian Price at 33. The Seahawks think so. What do you think that changes about the Kaelon Black pick and what the Niners believe of Christian McCaffrey's future as a major part of the offense? Is it something? Is it nothing? What do you make of San Francisco telling Trent enough with the BS? No more holdouts for the next 2 years. And of course, would you or would you not sign Kyle Van Noy after Woody had to say on Open Adams with the always lovely Kay Adams? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.